Hey, Diecast enthusiasts, what's going on? Um, so this video is something I haven't done before. It's not really about these cars. I just brought these out. Well, kind of is, kind of not. It was brought to my attention tonight that one of my cars is counterfeit or suspected to be counterfeit. So when it was brought to my attention, I start doing research and I found a wealth of information that was kind of surprising. And so I have some thoughts on it. So let's get right into it. I posted, anytime I do videos, if it's new cars, even if it's not, even if it's like, repeated cars, I'll take pictures and I'll post them up to Instagram. And so I did that tonight with this Kyosho LaFerrari. And I got a comment on the video basically saying, wow, that fake Kyosho looks really nice in this pic. So my first instinct is this isn't fake. But then I was like, before I say anything or snap back or anything like that, maybe there's something to it. So I took to the internet, and sure enough, there's a whole bunch of information online about these cars being counterfeit. Now, I've stated in numerous videos, I've said, hey, if you guys want to get your Kyosho collection started for cheap, this is the car to get. You can get it shipped for like $9, $8, or whatever it is. And so that's, knowing that was probably like the first reason why my first thought was to go online and verify, see if there was anything to this, to what he was telling me. So I have some thoughts about it. There are counterfeit Kyosho cars in 1:64 scale. This one here is more than likely one of them. It kind of left me a little bit puzzled because at that price, I don't know how you could be counterfeiting a die-cast car with this level of detail and profiting from it. But all these cars are made in China, so we know that it's very cheap to manufacture in China, which is why probably 80% of the world's manufacturing is done in China. I don't know if it's 80%, but it's an astronomical number. It's way higher than it should be. So, with that being said, maybe they can fake a Kyosho car and make a profit at $8 or $9 shipped to the U.S. So that leads me to the next question. If they're doing it, how are they doing it? Is this their own tooling? Is it somebody that has gone rogue with the Kyosho tooling? I don't have an authentic Kyosho LaFerrari to compare it with, but I looked as closely as I could in pictures, and as far as the casting itself goes, I can't see any differences. But again, in pictures, it's hard. I need another one here in person to compare. But so that's kind of what I was thinking is, like at Hot Wheels, you got the rogue employees that'll make factory customs, which, by the way, I read an article on Lamley about that had me laughing out loud. It was ridiculous. So we know that factory customs are a thing. You get employees that go in and they will take a Hot Wheels tooling and they will cast a certain number of basically it's unsanctioned or unauthorized Hot Wheels castings, and then they'll paint them some custom color that is not the color it should have been, and then they'll run the tampos and put real riders on it and then spin the base to the body. And they sell for big money, though in that case they sell for big money because they're considered factory customs, they're not considered fakes. So it could be something to that effect. Somebody, it's a high probability that a lot of these brands, Kyosho, M2, Greenlight, it's very possible, and this could be checked, this could be verified, but some of these brands could be manufactured at the same facility. I know for a fact that there was a point in time when Greenlight and and I think it was Auto World. It was either, or it might have been Racing Champs, but they were made at the same facility. And so this is not out of the realm of possibilities. And if that's the case, then these people that are working at these facilities are going to have access to basically all of the toolings. Because here's the thing. This car, I would say it's probably 90% that this is a fake counterfeit Kyosho. But the thing is, the detail is still amazing. The car looks amazing. And, I don't even care. I mean, I'm a little bummed out that it's not an authentic Kyosho, but it looks great. And that was part of what I read, is these people that are buying them are like, if I can get a car that looks really, really close to the original for a third of the price, instead of paying 30, I'm paying 10, who cares? And so it kind of causes that dilemma, I didn't realize it was an issue. A little bit of naivete on my part, but that led me to the next question was, okay, if it's happening with Kyosho, what other brands could this be happening with? Because you think to yourself, well, there wouldn't be enough money in it to fake an Auto World. But who knows? I mean, I wouldn't have thought there'd be enough money in it to fake one of these. I mean, look at we'll take a look at that in close detail here in a minute. It's highly unlikely that Auto World and Greenlight are being counterfeit. Here's the Greenlight car that I brought out for the little conversation here. It's highly unlikely that these are being counterfeit, and there are a couple of reasons why I say that. And that goes the same for Johnny Lightning castings, as well as M2 castings. But I could be wrong with my theory. The reason I say it's not likely is because from what I read in the articles, there's a massive collector's... the hobby is large. It's massive in China. And you have a lot of collectors, and these fakes were to... Basically, they weren't really intended to go international. They were just intended to basically saturate that market, that local market, with fake cars. But they've made their way around the world. And with, M2 and Greenlight and Johnny Lightning and some of the domestic brands likely being less desirable in that market, that would mean that they're less likely to be counterfeit. But then I think about all the times I have spoken to folks that live over there And all the boxes that I've sent to people over there of Matchbox cars and green light cars. So I know that there is a little bit of an appetite for United States domestic diecast over there. But these you can get $6 if it's a desirable casting. You can get it on the secondary market for maybe 10, $12. So to counterfeit these really wouldn't make a lot of sense financially. But with Kyosho, typically a Kyosho casting is going to cost you anywhere between $15 and $30 on average. If you can make a nice one and sell it for $10 shipped and make a profit on it, and that's the other thing too. This guy that I bought this from on eBay has been selling this same car for a couple of years and it's like he has an endless supply. So it all makes perfect sense. Now, another thing that was talked about is that there were two specific releases where they were finding large amounts of counterfeit castings. One of them was a Lamborghini series, and one of them was a Ferrari series. So that's not to say that there aren't any counterfeit cars from any other release, but the two that are most predominant and most well known, and I don't remember because I know they put out over 10 or 15 Ferrari releases. So I think the Ferrari release was Ferrari 7, and I don't remember the Lamborghini, but here's the bottom line. If you buy one and you're spending a third the price, you're still going to get a car that you're going to be happy with. So if you're in the market for a particular Kyosho casting and you find one and it's a lot less expensive than the others that you've seen, just know that there's a really good chance it's a counterfeit. But also know that you could get it and save the money and still get a really nice diecast car. So let's take a look at this. The first thing about this car, when I started looking at the actual Kyosho models, the first thing that stands out is the wheels. These wheels they're nice. They're nice looking wheels. They're prototypical, but they're not as crisp and as sharp as the Kyosho wheels. So that's the first red flag. The base looks a lot like a Kyosho base. They have the scale at the top, or at some part of the base. They'll have the scale and the model number. And then on the bottom, they'll have Kyosho and made in China. And in this case, the Kyosho, I looked at a bunch of my Kyosho cars to compare. The Kyosho cast there on the base, this one here is not nearly as crisp and as clear as all the others. But what's weird though is that one of the articles that I read said that the Kyosho has a capital L on the LaFerrari, and that the counterfeits have a lowercase l. Or maybe that's the other way around. That could be the other way around. Also, another indication that it's counterfeit is the tire size. Like in this case, the tires do look a little bit small for the wheel well. But it's still just a phenomenal amount of detail. I mean, look at the back of this car. Let's see if I can get a little bit better light. I mean, you still get prototypical wheels, you still get rubber tires with tread, you still get lensed headlights and taillights, you still get side view mirrors. It's really quite amazing that if this is happening, that they're pulling it off, because they're making some really nice diecast cars. So I don't know. It's still kind of I'm still kind of processing this whole thing, because I've been a collector now for 4 or 5 years, and I've spent a lot of money on this hobby, and this is just odd to me. All right, here, I know this isn't a LaFerrari, but we're going to just try to compare the two bases. See the difference in the Kyosho? Every other Kyosho that I looked at, the base looked far more like the Porsche, where it was real defined, real crisp. This one looks real shoddy on the LaFerrari. And I think on the Kyosho LaFerrari, the L is lowercase. I think I had it backwards. I think on the actual Kyosho it's a lowercase L. But it's mind-boggling to me, because what I want to know, and what the $1,000,000 question is what tooling are they using to make these cars? Because for all we know, it could be the Kyosho tooling. And if it is the Kyosho tooling, that does kind of make it a Kyosho. So it's like one of those weird things, because it's not an authorized Kyosho. It's not going to be built for Kyosho, so to speak. So there could be some compromise in the build quality or the fit and finish. But being that it would, if it was still a Kyosho tooling, it would still kind of make it a Kyosho in my book. If it's just like if the guys at Mattel take a Hot Wheels tooling and make some after hours, make a couple, cast a couple, and then paint it whatever color they want. It's not an official authorized Hot Wheels car, but it is still a Hot Wheels car. I mean, let's just use the 55 Gasser as an example. It's, if somebody were to cast five of those, after they punch out, and throw some paint on them, throw some wheels on them, it's still a Hot Wheels car. So I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, because I don't really know how to feel about it. Here's a 3-inch Norev. I don't think that these cars are at too high of risk of being counterfeit. If they are, I would imagine it would be somewhere in Europe, probably somewhere in Germany, where I could maybe see a counterfeiting operation. But I just don't see a lot of money being made counterfeiting diecast. Unless you have quick, easy access to the tooling. Because there's no way that some average Joe off the street of Bangkok or anywhere over there that pours molten Zamac for a living, there's no way that somebody like that is going to be able to design a casting like this. There are other ways you could do it. You could just cast the car and do it from there, but then you're making a copy of a casting, and major flaws are going to start showing through if you do that. So it just puzzles me. I would almost have to think that it's a rogue employee who has access. It has to be. Because not only are you casting the car, but you also have to have the castings for the headlights and the taillights and the wheels and the side view mirrors and all the little trim pieces that go on it, the seats, the steering wheel. You have to have the toolings for all of that. So it's gotta be. I would almost think that it's not a Kyosho clone. I would almost feel confident in saying it's the Kyosho tooling. It's just a rogue release. Other things to look for: the boxes, the print on the boxes is it's just really inferior to the actual Kyosho. They're identical. It's just the print quality's lower. It's a little bit more faded. The Lamborghinis don't have the Lamborghini hologram, so you want to make sure if you're buying a Kyosho Lamborghini that your box has that hologram on it. What are some of the other differences? I just can't believe I can't believe that I'm just finding out about this. No, I mean I don't have a lot of Kyosho. I think I have maybe like between 30 and 40 of them. And from what I read, it's only the Ferrari and Lamborghini that are issues, and it's only from one series of each. But with that being said, it's got to be pretty likely that there could be others. With as popular as JDM is right now, there could be a whole bunch of Datsun or Nissans flooding the market. So, as I continued to think about it, my next thought was this brand here, because this is a brand that I kind of really enjoy, and I would be super bummed out if I found out that I had a counterfeit Tomica Limited Vintage. So, about a year and a half ago, when I got my first Toyota Celica from Tomica Limited Vintage, it had a plastic base on it. And I always thought that TLV had metal base. Well, they don't all have metal bases. Some of them do. Some of them have plastic. So then I got to thinking, well, is it possible that there's a fake? Is it possible that someone could fake a TLV? Is it possible that someone would fake a TLV? Because they would be extremely hard cars to fake. I would almost say I don't see how you could fake a TLV without having the tooling. And the bottom line is that if you have one that you think is, or that you suspect is counterfeit, whether it's a TLV or a Kyosho or any other brand, if you have a casting that you suspect is counterfeit, then just buy one that you know is authentic, or try to get your hands on one that you know is authentic, so you can do a side-by-side comparison. Because if there's any difference in the sculpting of the casting, then you know it's a different tooling. So there's a lot, these TLVs sell for at least as much or more than Kyosho. So there's probably more meat on the bone for doing something like that. But maybe not, because there's also a lot more detail in these cars than there is in Kyosho. This is kind of interesting to me. The bottom line, at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's still a fun hobby. I'm not going to worry about it. I know that people make factory customs at the Hot Wheels factory. I know guys that collect them. They sell for a lot of money. Those factory custom Skylines that came out last year, they're $100 or more each. So, and I don't have a problem with it. I know, I know Lamley, you could tell that that article was, or that blog was written with some bias. And it was kind of written kind of snotty. Like, you just paid over $200 for something you thought was legit, or what was the word you thought was authentic, or something like that. And it's like, no, he didn't think, or he didn't pay 200 for something he thought was authentic. Okay, he paid $200 for something that he knows is authentic. It's just not. It's not an authentic Super Treasure Hunt. It's not an authentic Hot Wheels, but it is an authentic factory custom. And when you know that that's what you're paying for, and then that's what you get, then what's the problem with that? If you don't like the fact that guys are doing it at the factory, then, you're directing your frustration in the wrong direction. Collectors are going to collect. People want stuff like that because it's so rare. It's so hard to get. And that's why it sells for a ton of money. So don't hate the people that enjoy it, that buy it. Hate the people that are creating it in the first place. But don't, it was almost like you overpaid. That's kind of the vibe you got from it, is you overpaid for a piece of junk car. Because, it was a factory custom. Remember the Evo Super Treasure Hunt from 2015? The black one with the something attacks. It was that, but it was a raw. It had all the tampos. It had real riders. The base was spun. It was a true factory custom, and it sold for just over $200. And the gist of the article was, you way overpaid. And it's like, the market dictates what the market dictates. Okay, it was won at auction on eBay. There were over 30 bids on it. And that's just what the market calls for on those. So, I don't know. I was surprised to read an article like that on Lamley. Of all places, Lamley. Joke. What a joke that blog was. Almost makes me, I just wonder, like, when you read that, it's almost like you think that whoever wrote that blog is somebody who can't stand scalpers. And yet, Lamley is probably the biggest scalper on the planet. And they don't even have to go out to scalp. He just sits on his couch and scalps. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But anyways, I digress. Here is a brand. This is the last one I'm going to touch on, because really, you've got a lot of brands, but the only companies that are actively making diecast is Round 2. That covers Racing Champs, Auto World, Johnny Lightning. You have Greenlight. You have M2. You have, I'm not even going to mention Matchbox or Hot Wheels, but you've got your import stuff. The only import brands that are making cars right now is Kyosho, TLV, Shuko, Tarmac. So there are quite a few. But a lot of the brands like Auto Art here, or even Konami, they don't make cars anymore. But I guess that's not to say that there couldn't be some counterfeit cars show up. It's possible. All it would take is for somebody to get a hold of the tooling or have access to the tooling. That's all it would take. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But with Auto Art, I think these would be a lot harder to fake. Because I'll show you here the Veyron. These cars, first of all, the packaging, the cardboard that the acrylic comes in, is a very, very thick stock. It's a very thick stock. And plus, you do get a hologram with a serial number. But also, this is really cool that no other brand does this that I know of. But you get a certificate of authenticity. So with auto art, you know, and these are probably the nicest. You know, this car is selling close to $100, so there would probably be more incentive to counterfeit these than anything else. But then again, you're going to have the tooling for the car. You're going to have the tooling for the headlights, the tail lights, the seats, all the little trim pieces, and then you're going to have to put them together with a certain level of quality, and it's probably not going to be the easiest thing to do. But they fancy themselves in such a way that they think that they're high end enough that they provide a certificate of authenticity. And quite honestly, they are nice enough to include a certificate of authenticity. I think that TLVs are nice enough. I think they should come with a certificate of authenticity. And you know what? If this counterfeiting thing continues to get bigger, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing it from brands like Kyosho and TLV. But if, then the next step is the counterfeiters are just going to have to counterfeit the certificate. So, it's just one of those things. It's very interesting. The reason I find it so interesting is because the counterfeits are so nice that they're worth having. They're worth having. I mean, that's, they're worth collecting. If you're going to make a fake car and you're going to make it look this good, my question is, which models do you have? I'll take one of each. I'll just have a whole collection of fake Kyoshos. I got no problem with that. Because there's still going to be value to them. And you're still going to have really nice, realistic looking replicas that display very nice. So, it's really, really weird. It's just a really weird situation. So, anyway, so that's the video. I just ranted for a half an hour. And hopefully I didn't offend anybody. I know Lamley has a lot of fans out there, and that's fine. I just found it odd. The way that blog was written was strange to me. It was strange. But this is something to look out for, and I probably should have been more cognizant of the issue, than I have been, considering I do buy quite a few cars that aren't really that cheap. And in fact, I have purchased at least one counterfeit. So, buyer beware. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this video in regards to the subject matter at hand. So if you have any thoughts or knowledge of counterfeit diecast, please comment below. Maybe start a discussion. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for getting through this one. Hopefully this was informative. And I may revisit this subject at some point down the road. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts below. And I'll holler at you guys and gals at the next video.